Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to y'all real plain today, because somebody out there is feeling confused, and baby girl, I want to shine some light on what your heart already knows, but your mind keeps making excuses for. Now look, I ain't here to tear nobody down. I'm here to build you up, because when something ain't right, you can feel it. Deep down, you already know. Ladies and gentlemen, let me break something down that a lot of folks ignore because they don't want to face it. But ignoring the truth doesn't make it go away, it just delays the hurt. Now, I want to talk to that woman who's sitting at home right now, staring at a man who used to hold her close and now barely says a word. You know what I'm talking about, that emotional shift. That silent space between you that didn't used to be there, and you wondering what happened? Let me tell you something. When a man starts putting up emotional walls where there used to be doors, baby, he's not just distracted. He's hiding something. See, when a man is fully invested in you, emotionally connected, he wants to be near you. He wants to hear your voice, know your thoughts, feel your presence. That's just how men are when they're in love. They may not say it with flowers every day, but you'll feel it in the way they check on you, how they light up when you enter a room, how they notice your mood and won't fix what's broken. But when that man starts pulling away, when conversations get shorter, when his eyes stop meeting yours, when the warmth starts to freeze up, that's not random, that's a sign. And let's be real, when you bring it up, when you try to have a calm, grown-up conversation and say, hey, I feel like something's different between us, and instead of listening, he turns it into a fight, baby, that ain't confusion, that's guilt wearing a disguise. A guilty man don't want to be questioned. A guilty man gets defensive, not because you wrong, but because you too close to the truth. He'll say things like, why you always accusing me? Or you tripping, nothing's changed. Oh, but it has. You just can't prove it yet. That emotional distance, that defensiveness, it's a way of protecting something. Think about it. When someone's trying to hide something from you, they don't want to be too emotionally open. Because when you open up, you make room for questions. And those questions, they get close to the truth. So he shuts down. He'll act annoyed when you ask about his day, give you short answers, or act like everything you say is an attack. Now, I don't know who told men that being cold and silent is a form of strength. It's not. Real strength is being honest. Real love is being consistent. But when that emotional shift happens and there's no explanation, no outside pressure like work or health, and you feel like you're sleeping next to a stranger, that's not a season. And I know you might tell yourself maybe he's just going through something. And listen, maybe he is. Men go through stress too. But even under stress, a man who loves you doesn't shut you out. He leans on you. If he's using silence as a shield, if he's weaponizing distance, you need to ask yourself, what is he protecting? Because it sure ain't your feeling. Let me put it like this. When someone goes from being your biggest cheerleader to barely clapping when you walk in the room, that ain't growth. That's withdrawal. And if you're constantly feeling like you have to beg for attention, tiptoe around his moods, or apologize just for wanting clarity, girl, that ain't love. That's confusion. And confusion is the devil's playground. See, clarity gives peace even when the truth hurts. But confusion, that'll eat at your self-worth day by day. So if you're feeling that emotional shift, if you're sensing that coldness, and every time you bring it up, he flips it on you, Don't second guess your intuition. God gave you that gut for a reason. It's a GPS for your heart. Pay attention to that change in temperature, baby. Because if you used to have sunshine and now it's all cloudy, you better check where the storm is coming from. You ever notice how a man's schedule can start looking like a puzzle that don't fit together anymore? One minute he's always free, always around, always finding time for you. Even when he's busy, he's present. Then all of a sudden he got meetings that run late, friends popping up you never heard of, errands that take hours, and work trips that don't add up. Now, I don't know what dictionary he's using, but when a man's time starts becoming a mystery, that's not just life getting busy, that's life getting shady. And let me tell you something about a man who's telling the truth. His stories line up. Even when he forgets something small, his actions still match his words. But when a man starts ducking simple questions like, where were you? Or why didn't you answer your phone? And instead gives you half-baked answers or says, I was just out. That's not him being casual. That's him keeping you in the dark. And if you keep pushing, suddenly you're the one being too nosy or always assuming the worst. Nah, baby. A man who has nothing to hide don't act like your questions are a threat. Here's the thing. Schedules don't change overnight without a reason. If he used to call you at lunch every day and now you don't even get a text, something shifted. If he used to spend weekends with you and now he's too tired or has plans every time, there's a reason. People make time for who they care about. And when that time starts disappearing, when his availability starts getting real unpredictable, it's usually because that time is being spent somewhere or with someone else. Now look, everybody has a right to their own life, their own space, but when you're in a relationship, you share your life. It don't mean you need a GPS tracker on his car, but there should be transparency. If a man can't tell you where he's going, when he'll be back, or who he's with, and gets irritated when you ask, that's not privacy, it's secrecy. And the difference between the two is real simple. Privacy is about boundaries. Secrecy is about hiding behavior. He starts working late, okay, maybe once or twice, but 3 nights in a row, and somehow he comes home smelling like cologne and energy drinks, and he looks more refreshed than when he left. That ain't just work, baby. That's a performance. He ain't tired. He ain't drained. He energized because he just got done putting on a show somewhere else. And then he walks in the door acting like you the burden because you dared to ask why he's walking in at midnight with no explanation. You got to pay attention to the patterns. If he used to be predictable and now he's all over the place, that's not growth, that's distraction. When you have to start wondering why he left the house at 6 p.m. and didn't answer your calls until 10:30, something's wrong. And don't fall for that I left my phone in the car nonsense. We live in a time where men take their phone with them to the shower. If he didn't answer, it's because he didn't want to. And don't let guilt or hope cloud your judgment. Sometimes we tell ourselves, maybe he's just overwhelmed, or maybe I'm being too sensitive. No, you're being observant. You're not demanding an itinerary. You just want consistency. You want to know that when he says he's somewhere, he's there. That when he's gone, you don't have to wonder who he's with. That when he says he loves you, so if his schedule is full of gaps, and his explanations sound more like rehearsed speeches than honest answers, trust what you see. You don't need a private investigator when a man starts making himself unavailable without cause. Time tells on everybody. And when a man stops including you in his time, you better believe someone else is taking. A man's phone can tell you everything you need to know, not because you're snooping, but because his relationship with that phone changes when he's hiding something. See, at first, the phone's just a phone. It's sitting around, unlocked, on a table, upside up, notifications dinging in the open. He laughs at memes with you, takes your calls in front of you, even hands you his phone to play music or order food. But let that man start hiding another woman, and suddenly that phone becomes a whole secret weapon. You go to touch it and he jumps like you just grabbed his wallet in a casino. Now, I know technology is personal and everybody likes some privacy. I'm not saying a man got to give you his passcode and let you scroll for hours. But when a man treats his phone like it's holding nuclear codes, baby, that's not privacy. That's panic. That's, I got something in here I don't want you to see. You ever see a man flip his screen down every time he sets the phone on the table? Or take it to the bathroom like it's part of his body? He used to fall asleep with it on the nightstand. Now it's under his pillow. That ain't convenience. That's cover up. The worst part is the more he hides it, the more aggressive he becomes about defending it. You try to ask a simple question like, who's texting you at 11:30? And suddenly he's blowing up, why are you all in my business? Now, wait a minute. A man in a committed relationship ain't got no business he can't explain. If he ain't doing wrong, why is he so mad about the question? Let me tell you something. When a man is faithful and open, he don't get loud and mean about a message notification. He explains it calmly because there's nothing to be scared of. But when a man starts flipping out over questions, you wouldn't even have to ask if he wasn't acting strange. That's guilt. That ain't love. That's a guilty conscience trying to protect a secret. Pay attention to how he treats that phone when you're around. If he waits until you leave the room to respond to a message, that message ain't just from his barber or his cousin. If he gets real quiet when the phone rings and walks away to take the call, that ain't a job interview. If he suddenly adds a new password, disables previews, or installs an app locker, who he hiding from? Because it sure ain't hackers. That man's protected something real specific, and it's usually another woman. What's worse is when he starts accusing you of doing the same thing. That's a trick. It's called projection. He'll say, you always on your phone too, or you got people messaging you at night. That's deflection, baby. That's him trying to throw the heat off himself and put it on you. But don't let him flip the script. Stay focused, because if he was innocent, he wouldn't be so desperate to point fingers. Innocent people don't panic under pressure. They speak the truth. They clear the air. But guilty ones, they try to confuse you, distract you, and shame you for even asking. Let's be real. When a man values his relationship, he won't do things that make you feel like you got to question him. He won't be so glued to a device that you start to feel like the outsider in your own relationship. If he makes you feel crazy for simply noticing he's guarding his phone like it's his lifeline, then ask yourself, why should you feel guilty for being observant? You're not paranoid, not insecure. You're paying attention. And attention saves hearts from breaking when words don't match the vibe. If he's hiding something, the phone's going to show you. Maybe not directly, but in how he handles it. The way he reacts to a question tells you more than what's inside the screen. You don't need to catch the messages to know when something's wrong. His behavior is the message. And trust me, if that phone suddenly became the most protected thing in his life, you better believe his loyalty isn't what it used to be. When a man's heart starts wandering, his presence starts shrinking. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You can feel it in the room. One day you two were close. You laughed, you touched, you shared space without even thinking about it. Sitting on the couch together felt like home. But now, that same couch feels like a cold hotel lobby. He's there, but he ain't with you. And that's the kind of silence that screams the loudest. You know something's up when intimacy takes a nosedive and it's not just about the bedroom. I'm talking about the everyday closeness. He stops reaching for your hand, stops brushing your hair behind your ear, stops giving you those little kisses on the forehead just because. All the small things that used to feel so natural are now missing. He's always tired, always not in the mood, always got something on his mind but won't talk about it. That's not exhaustion, baby. That's emotional disconnection. That's a man whose attention has gone somewhere else. A man doesn't stop being affectionate overnight without a reason. Real love stays consistent, even through stress, even through long days. You might not get fireworks every day, but you feel loved. But when the love starts feeling like a one-way street, like you the only one trying, like you gotta beg just for a hug or a conversation, something deeper is going on. Especially if he used to be all over you, calling you fine, complimenting you, always wanting to be near you, and now all of a sudden he can go a whole day barely speaking to you, barely looking your way. That ain't stress. That's redirection. And I know what you might be thinking. Maybe he's just in a funk. Maybe life's weighing him down. That could be true. But even in a funk, a man who loves you wants to feel close to you. He might be quiet, but he'll still pull you close. He might not have the words, but he'll rest his head on your shoulder. There's a difference between shutting down because of life and shutting down because his heart has shifted. The second one hurts more because you feel it, but you can't prove it. And that makes you question yourself. He stops asking about your day, stops making plans with you, stops doing those little traditions that meant everything to both of you, like Friday night movies or your morning coffee talks. All that time that used to be yours is suddenly being spent alone, or worse, being filled with excuses. He's too busy, too distracted, too disconnected, but never too busy to be on his phone, never too distracted to hang out with his boys. Never too disconnected to watch a game for 3 hours without missing a beat. But when it comes to you, he suddenly needs space. The hardest part is when you try to talk about it. You sit him down, you ask, is everything okay? And he either brushes it off or gets irritated like you're overreacting. But how you gonna overreact to your own loneliness? How you gonna be too emotional for missing a man who's right there in front of you, but acting like you invisible? That ain't fair. And that's not what love is supposed to feel like. When a man pulls away physically, emotionally, and mentally, it's because he's either lost interest or found it somewhere else. No man hides his love for the woman he truly wants to be with. He shows up for her. He touches her. He makes time. Even when life gets hard, he still makes sure she knows she matters. But when you go from being his priority to feeling like an afterthought, that's not something you ignore. People don't just stop showing love, they start giving it somewhere else. And the more you chase after his attention, the more it feels like rejection. You don't deserve that. You shouldn't have to beg for affection or schedule time to be noticed, because when someone wants to be with you, You'll never feel like you're in competition for their time. You'll feel chosen